The following is for entertainment purposes only. We are not financial advisors. We are not responsible for any losses, only the profits.
Hello, and welcome to Quantified Reaction. This is part 1, a summary of what quantum computing is. Part 2 will address what they can do and who the players are. Quantum computing, in 5 years, this is all you're going to hear about. I'd love to rise to the challenge to explaining what quantum computers are and is, as opposed to the classical computers, but that's not going to happen. In order to wrap your mind around the enormously complex theoretic mechanics of how they work, you'd have to revisit what you'd learned in high school and college chemistry and physics classes in order to even begin to understand the mysterious and seemingly supernatural nature of what goes on inside a quantum chip. About the world, supernatural. The fact is, scientists cannot explain quantum behavior. The realm of quantum physics was discovered piecemeal through the late 1800s and early 1900s, but became a formalized branch of physics upon the publication of Werner Heisenberg's 1927 world-shattering paper. You may have heard of Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. Fans of Breaking Bad might recognize that name. You may also have heard of Schrodinger's cat. That was a thought experiment devised by Erwin Schrödinger in 1935. His goal was to elicit a more scientifically responsible interpretation for what he and his colleagues has discovered. One that do away with the magic and highlight the absurd conclusions their experiments might have suggested. What was the conclusion that drove him and Einstein nuts? Evidence implied? No. Revealed? Then at the most fundamental level of reality, one thing can exist in two locations simultaneously. We've had since 1927 to figure out this problem. Almost 100 years later, scientists are still baffled. And that's not even the beginning. The deeper we probed into the fabric of reality, the more mind-boggling it became. At a quantum level, the laws that govern our rational world utterly break down. A certain class of particles can move both forward and backwards in time. The relationship between cause and effect is swapped. The particles that make up all the atoms in the universe don't quite exist until they're observed. Looking at information at a quantum level can be sent and received instantaneously, even if the information must travel from one end of the universe to the next. Therefore, apparently breaking nature's primary law, that nothing can go faster than the speed of light. Particles can teleport, they can appear out of nothing and return to nothing. Probe down even further, and waiting there will show us states of interactions that suggest rather convincingly that all space is pixelated, like an old computer screen, as if we're living inside of a computer. Furthermore, the events happened at the quantum level suggest strongly the existence of other dimensions, invisible to our 3D brains. In fact, the results of the last 50 years of experiments imply the existence of parallel universes. This is not a fringe interpretation or a minority belief. Many of the most brilliant scientists of our time have taken a stake in the parallel universe supposition. In fact, the early pioneers of quantum computing took it as a fact. To them, and many today, the reasons why we can make quantum computations is hinged upon the presence of parallel realities. This is too crazy sounding, right? And we've had almost 100 years to rule out all the rational explanations, and we've made zero progress in doing so. The odd behavior of the quantum system allows us to be able to create an unbreakable form of encryption. Here's some bullet points. There's no if, only when. The prevalence of quantum computing in the world and as a stock market mega sector will arrive. Unless someone solves a 1,000-century-old riddle and proves the entire theory wrong, the likelihood is infinitesimal. Conservative estimates argue that the age of quantum computers is 10 to 15 years ago. Realistic estimates, provided the world doesn't go apocalyptic, map it at about 5 years. If you're hoping to multiply in this area, you'll need to sit back and relax for a number of years. I can't imagine this not becoming a craze as equally as profound SPACs and EVs. But not yet, and seeds have only begun to be planted. What happens in quantum computers' core processor? Vice President of D-Wave, one of the biggest names in the game, says, if we're honest, everything we currently know about quantum mechanics can't fully describe how quantum computers work. Sounds wonderful, huh? A classic computer, which is what you all have, possesses very limited resources for calculating and performing tasks. Information in the everyday computer or related device is encoded in bits. Bits are like tiny on and off switches. The off position is represented as a 0 and the on is represented as a 1. In the position, electrons pass through the circuit in the off position. The mirror image of a silver octopus money multipliers coin, at a base level, it's a stream of multi-millions and millions of ones and zeros. From just a picture, all of these 0, 1s, on-off instructions communicated through your devices are carried out logically. That is, there's a rational momentum of cause and effect. A quantum processor has the same computational framework as a classical one. It has in its processors the on and off switches, zeros and ones, that perform logical operations. But quantum bots have one other element, superposition. As noted earlier, superposition is the strange phenomenon explicit to quantum mechanics, in which something can be in two places or two states simultaneously. A qubit can off, and a qubit can be on. A qubit can be in an irrational state in which it is both on and off at the same time. Viewed another way, it's not the number of 0 nor the number of 1. It is the number we cannot visualize that is both 0 and 1 at the same time. It is electricity flowing and not flowing at the same time. A qubit can also be in state. The latest developments in the last decade have focused on the overcoming some serious problems inherent in qubits. Recall earlier I mentioned that in the quantum world, things don't exist until they're observed or measured, assessed, manipulated, any kind of interaction or communication. It's terribly difficult to bring electrons in a microchip into a state of superposition. Anything that might interfere with a qubit that churning out quantum calculations will destroy the magical superposition state and cause the qubits to suddenly become regular old bits, just ones and zeros. An interpretation can be anything, as simple as someone looking into a circuit observation. It could be something as simple as an external disruption. A single free-flowing electron in the room bumps up against the processor, and bam, no more quantum state. A tiny bit of stray magnetism from the person's computer in the next room over, bam, no more quantum state. This is the decoherence problem. We are on the brink of solving this, and may already have. When I have more time, I'm going to write about the different kinds of quantum computers and exactly what they can do, which is everything. But before I do that, I'm going to take a break and then come back with a list of all the quantum computing startups you best be on the lookout for. And well, as all the companies that are building or have built quantum computers, IonQ, I have been waiting for this day for a long time.